Hey folks, it's Dave here, back in Studio B with my really cool Cyclones jersey that I have here that was sent to me by a listener of the show. Thank you, Mr. C, for this. I love this jersey right here. I love the colors. They're really cool. Anyway, today I'm talking about learning a new game. I see a lot of you out there trying some new games, and that's fantastic because there's a lot of great games out there if you just give them a chance. And so it's fun to see that I'm learning new games and other people are following in my footsteps and other people's footsteps, learning new games. You see somebody on YouTube play a game, or maybe someone's having a sale, you want to try this out. So it's really cool that I see a lot of people trying new games. But with learning a new game, there are some pitfalls and some growing pains. So I want to go over some tips and tricks that people have given me and others I've kind of discovered along the way for learning a new game. All right. And now most of these tips will work with most games, but not every game. So you know where I'm going with this. But anyway, let's get down to my PowerPoint presentation, shall we? Yeah, I like my PowerPoint presentations. All right. So learning a new game, some tips and tricks. Here we go. So getting started, some of these were suggested to me, and I still use them because I love them. And others was things I discovered along my journeys with playing new games, and I think these are some of the things that work for me. So let's get right to it. All right, first up, the first tip is buy a favorite season and play a favorite team. A lot of times when you buy a new game, you get demo teams. Well, I guess if you like the demo teams, that's fine, but you're playing these games to play with your favorite teams or your favorite seasons or your favorite players. So start with that. And that makes a huge difference when playing a game. If you're playing just a couple of generic teams that you don't care about or you have no connection to, then you're playing the game with two teams you have no connection to. Buy a season. Okay, if you're going to invest in a game, invest in a season. Okay, it really does going a long way towards making the game enjoyable. Even if you don't like the game, at least you gave it a fair shot. Because I found that when I play demo teams and I play my favorite teams, it's a huge difference in how long I want to try to stick with the game, or if I'm having a problem with the game. It's easy to walk away with a demo team, but if you got your guys in there and you recognize these faces, you're more apt to stick with it. So I would say buy a favorite team and play a favorite season. That is probably the biggest tip I can give for starting a new game. Secondly, read the instructions before playing at least once or twice. Kick back, put on the game, have a coffee, and flick through the book, and you'll pick up on a few things. Okay, if you just lay out everything on the table, you can go in cold, and then you're flicking through the instructions. It's a slog. Read it first, have an idea what the game is trying to do. And then when you sit down and play it, at least you'll have a head start. Or in worst case, when something comes up, you'll say, oh, I remember reading that in the book over here. So then you can flick right to that instead of trying to flip through it every single time trying to find those things. So read the instructions first. That has worked really well for me before even picking up the game and starting to play it. Next, do not use substitutions when first starting. That was a tip that people gave me, and it's a good one. Lay out your starting lineup, no matter what game it is, and play as long as you can with those guys, whether it's a period, a quarter, or whatever. Don't worry about changing up. Don't worry about fatigue. Keep it as simple as possible and just start learning the game with maybe even your 5 favorite guys, or how many guys in the game at the time. Start with your favorite guys and get good at that. And it'll make you happy. It'll put smiles on your faces just seeing your favorite players anyway. But start with them. Don't worry about substitutions and fatigue off the bat. That will come later on. Just start to get the game moving, okay? And that'll be piggyback off with this one right here. Start slow. These games are typically repetitive, so get the game moving, no matter what game it is. Start the ball moving, start the puck moving, whatever it is. Just get the game going. Have the instructions there. Start slow. Don't worry if it takes you 3 hours to play the first quarter or first period of a game. You're learning it, okay? It's slow. You're getting the idea on how the mechanics of the game work, okay? Start slow. And you'll start to see patterns. So you'll be like, oh, I've done this before, so now I've learned that. So you'll chip away at that stone as you start learning what the game wants you to do. And again, a lot of it's very repetitive, so it's just getting used to that, the gameplay there and just doing it over and over. So get the game moving. Start off slow. Don't worry about how long it takes you to play. at the start. Skip over the crazy stuff. Again, this kind of all this. These last few are all in the same ballpark here. Get the basics down first. If you get stuck on something, move on. Don't get hung up on getting everything right on the first playthrough. Don't be afraid to, when you get stuck on something, whether it's a rare play or something like that, skip that and just play the game. Get the basics down because you're trying to build this game. So you want to get the base down, and then you work on to the next level and the next level. So don't worry about playing advanced or super advanced. Just play the basic simple mode. Get the game going. Get the basics down. And then once that's down, then you can start adding to it. Because if you take on everything at once, and if you do, good for you. But for me, I found if I took on everything at once, my head was spinning and I didn't like the game. But start off slow, get some of the simple mechanics down, and then start adding in other things. And I think that's a better way to go. All right, what do we have up next here? Injuries. Yeah, do not use injuries at the beginning. And I say see above crazy stuff. I consider injuries to be crazy stuff. So again, substitutions, rare plays, injuries, none of this stuff you really need it to start. It's stuff you can add in later. Start playing the game. See if you like the game as the game is. Again, then add in everything else. Again, you're building these blocks up here, okay? So this is when you're first starting. Later on, add everything in. In fact, I just started using injuries now. I very rarely would use injuries, and just now I felt comfortable adding injuries to some of my games, and it's adding some storyline and some enjoyment. I'm not going to lie. It really is. But for the longest time, I never did. I still was enjoying the game as it was, and every now and then I'll add another layer. Even years later in a game, I will go back in, and maybe I'll add some advanced base stealing into a game. Maybe I'll add injuries. Maybe I'll add something else. So again, start simple and then build it up. So don't worry about the crazy stuff at the start. You can add all that advanced and crazy stuff in later on. And take advantage of the YouTube videos of the game. There's probably a video for just about every game out there, I would imagine. And sometimes there's several. Sometimes it's people just playing the game. Sometimes it's people talking about the game and explaining it. Have the game in front of you, or at least the rule book in your hand. And when you watch these videos, they'll make more sense. Because I've tried to actually sit down, okay, just bought a game. Let me watch a video on it. Sometimes it clicks. Sometimes it doesn't. But if I have the rule book in front of me, or if I have the game in front of me and I'm kind of following along with the video, it really makes more sense when it's in front of you. And I've talked about that on the show, how sometimes YouTube videos don't do a game justice, that once you have it in front of you, you get the aha moment. Have the game in front of you. When you get stuck, go to YouTube, watch some videos, and watch someone else play while you're playing, and that really does help as well. And then over here, I got one last thing is ask questions. If you get stuck on something, Facebook, Delphi, YouTube, whatever it is, ask some questions. And now I will say, though, you do have to give it the old college try. You do have to try to play the game before asking questions, because there's some people that just open the box up and they're like, okay, what do I do? Hold my hand and walk me through this. And we know who they are. And there's other people who have tried and like, I'm just not seeing this. How do I play this? So we can really tell the difference between those who've at least tried it and get stuck, and those who are just being completely lazy. And people in the community by and large will help just about anybody, but they're more apt to help the people who have really tried and like, man, I'm just not seeing this. Why is this, that, and this, that? Can you help me out? And people will chime in and try to explain the best they can to what they feel is the rule or how they play the game. So feel free to ask questions if you get stuck. People are generally really good in helping you out. But again, you got to meet them halfway. You got to at least been trying to do it on your own. And then your questions will make more sense. And we can tell the difference between someone who just says, what do I do? And someone who's more specific that says, okay, I'm reading this, I would do this, am I right or wrong? And then we can help you out. So anyway, so there's some of the things there. So anyway, that's some tips and tricks on learning a new game. I hope this helped out a little bit. Again, people were great in helping me out, and still are when I'm learning a new game, and I'll play to a point, and it's like, okay, I'm just not seeing this, or am I interpreting this correctly, or am I wrong? And so people have been really good about helping me out here. And in fact, there's been a handful of times in many different games that I'll read something a certain way, and they'll go back in and actually reword a particular rule in a game because they're like, wow, we didn't really think anybody would think that way, but now we do. So if one person thinks this way, then other people might. So they'll clarify it even more. And the big thing about a game is you want really good instructions. And sometimes they're not always the best, and so sometimes you read something and you have to ask questions, and they'll say, yeah, okay, yeah, let's change that in the rule book there because something could be interpreted a couple different ways, and we want to completely clarify that. So anyway, hey, I'm Dave in Studio B. I hope you enjoyed this video here. Hope this helps out if you're learning a new game, and I suggest learn a new game. Games are great. I'm so glad that I just didn't stick with one game and not do anything else. That I love the buffet, the smorgasbord of games. I love it because I found some really great games that I'm really enjoying, and I have so many great games. It's unbelievable. And so hope this helps, folks. I'm Dave from Studio B. Bye-bye.